For decades, Titleist has been seen as a brand for the precision players, built around control, feel, and consistency. But the story of their drivers, that is a story of highs, lows, and some of the biggest transformations in golf driver technology. Their drivers have gone from compact titanium heads built for control to modern, aerodynamically refined designs that dominate on tour. There's been moments where Titleist just couldn't keep up, but others where they led the pack. But every generation moved the needle little by little toward the dominance that we see today. And in this video, we're telling that full story. From the iconic 975D that shaped a generation, to the years where performance slipped behind, and finally to the bold reinvention that became the Titleist Speed project. And at the end of this video, I'll be putting 3 generations head to head: the iconic 975D, the 917D3, and the GT3, all up against each other on GC Quad to see just how far Titleist performance and technology have really come. Now, in the mid to early 90s, most drivers still featured stainless steel head designs, and a lot of them were around 200 to 250 cc's in size. They were heavy, compact, and built for players who prized control and accuracy. The heads were small and the sweet spots were even smaller. The idea of a forgiving driver was still in its infancy, but the landscape was changing rapidly. Manufacturers were beginning to experiment with titanium construction, a material much lighter and stronger, allowing for much bigger club heads, but without adding any weight. Brands like Callaway and TaylorMade were already pushing that boundary. Callaway's Great Big Bertha in '95 and TaylorMade's Titanium Bubble 2 in '96 were examples of larger titanium heads, pushing size upwards and starting the shift towards heads that launch higher and create faster ball speeds. Titleist, though, took a slightly different approach. They weren't trying to make the biggest driver, they were trying to make the best feeling one and the most workable one. While competitors leaned towards maximum forgiveness, Titleist prioritized classic shape, sound, feel, and precision, qualities their tour players had always valued. And in 1998, they launched the 975D, Titleist's first titanium driver. At 260 cc's, it was right in line with its competitors at the time, but executed truly in Titleist's fashion. Beautifully balanced, cleanly shaped, and engineered for control. Its deep face and classic pair profile became instantly recognizable. Tiger Woods made it iconic, winning the 2000 US Open, Open Championship, PGA Championship, and the 2001 Masters, all with a 975D in the bag. And he certainly was not the only one. David Duval, Sergio Garcia, and Adam Scott all gained a 975D in their peak years, a testament to how trusted and dominant it was among the game's best ball strikers. The 975D captured exactly what Titleist stood for at the time: clean, compact, tour-ready performance that rewarded the best players in the world. By the mid-2000s, the driver world looked very different. Head sizes had hit that USGA limit of 460 cc's, and titanium was now the standard across pretty much every major brand. Golfers had more forgiveness, more launch, and more ball speed than ever before. And for a while, it seemed like the race for size had hit its finish line. In 2006, Titleist entered that race with a driver that would become one of the most trusted drivers on tour, the 905R. It was the first Titleist driver to reach that 460cc limit, featuring a forged SP700 titanium face insert that created exceptional feel and consistency. Now, despite its larger footprint, it still carried that unmistakable Titleist DNA. A traditional pair shape, clean alignment, and that sound that better players just loved. The 905R struck a perfect balance between forgiveness and workability, and quickly became a tour staple. Players like Adam Scott, Zach Johnson, and Davis Love III all had it in the bag, and it delivered results. Zach Johnson famously used his 905R to win the 2007 Masters, controlling Augusta National with precision rather than brute force. For many players, the 905R was that ultimate blend of old school Titleist feel paired with modern performance. Now, by the late 2000s, driver design had entered a new phase. It was no longer just about forgiveness. Now it was about fitting and fine-tuning. Golfers wanted that ability to be able to tweak, fine-tune, loft, lie, and shot shape. TaylorMade really led the way when it came to adjustable weighting, first with that R7 quad and later that R9, showing what adjustability really could do, and the industry took notice. Now, Titleist didn't rush to follow, but when they arrived, they did it properly. And even today, some of the things they implemented back in 2010 still stand. In 2010, the 910 D2 and 910 D3 introduced the short fit hosel, the first system that allowed fitters to independently alter loft and lie. It was a breakthrough for precision fitting, giving players more control than ever before. And the proof came quickly. At the 2011 US Open, Rory McIlroy demolished the field with a Titleist 910 D2 in the bag. And it was a statement. Titleist could match the modern day power while still keeping that classic shape and feel. The next generations, the 913, 915 and 917, pushed that philosophy even further. The 913 refined face thickness for better speed retention. The 915, launched in 2014, added the active recoil channel to preserve ball speed on those low face strikes and control spin. And the 917, released in 2016, their most advanced driver yet, keeping the active recoil channel with a small tweak, but more notably adding the Sure Fit CG, a movable weight cartridge that shifted that center of gravity between fade, neutral and draw settings. On paper, it was Titleist's most complete driver ever, and early success did back that up. Jimmy Walker won the 2016 PGA Championship with a 917 D2, and Justin Thomas claimed 5 victories in 2017, including his own PGA Championship with a 917 D3. Tour players praised its feel, its sound, and its balance, but not everyone was convinced. Jordan Spieth held onto his 915 D2 until well into 2017, saying he preferred its flight and spin profile. And more importantly, on launch monitors across fitting bays worldwide, a different story was emerging. Golfers loved the look and the feel of the driver, but the numbers just weren't quite there. Against rivals like TaylorMade's M1 and M2 and Callaway's Epic, it was producing slightly lower ball speeds and slightly higher spin rates. And we all know what that equates to. For many fitters, it was a pattern they couldn't ignore, earning a reputation of being a little short and a little spinny. It wasn't a failure by any means, but it did reveal something very important. Titleist had mastered precision, sound, and fitting control, but in an era obsessed with speed, they were suddenly playing catch-up. And that realization would trigger the most radical rethink in the company's modern history. Launch monitors were now everywhere, in the fitting bays, in retail stores, even in garages. And suddenly, one number mattered more than anything else: ball speed. But golfers were starting to notice the gap. Players were seeing competitors step up and fly it 10 yards further. As one engineer later put it, we were right on track until we weren't. That realization flipped a switch inside the company. If the next driver wasn't faster, nothing else mattered. So in 2017, the Titleist Speed project was born, an internal mission to rebuild their driver program from the ground up. Every assumption was questioned: the aerodynamics, the materials, even the fitting systems. Everything that didn't contribute to speed was on the table. And even long-term staffers like Jordan Spieth became an integral part of this process. During the prototyping process, Titleist engineers took the tour truck to Dallas, to Spieth, for a pivotal test. Spieth had been exploring other options, and if these early prototypes didn't deliver, the whole project could have stalled before it even started. But lucky for them, that fitting proved the concept had worked, and that lit a fire under that team. Their mandate was now simple: within the rules, without losing that Titleist feel, find speed. Now, before 2018, Titleist aerodynamics were somewhat basic. DIY aerodynamics, as they called it. They understood the principles, but when they hired Steve Ogg, a former aerospace aerodynamicist, everything changed. Ogg treated the driver like an aircraft problem. Using advanced line integral convolution simulations, he visualized airflow and immediately called out penalties. Every tiny indentation or trailing edge flare that created turbulence or drag. By resculpting the crown and the sole to smooth airflow and delay separation, the team gained about 3/4 of a mile an hour clubhead speed. A small number, but did translate into a bit of real-world distance. That work defined the TSR series with cleaner lines, faster airflow, and a more efficient head shape. Now, at the same time, the materials team faced a new problem. When early TSI prototypes pushed face speeds higher, the faces actually began to flatten under impact. It seemed basic traditional titanium had reached its limit. And that is when Uday, Titleist's material expert, stepped in. And Uday used to joke that he was always searching for a material called unobtainium. The standard titanium 6-4 alloy wasn't enough, so the team turned to the ATI 425 aerospace titanium, a US-made alloy used by NASA and the Department of Defense. ATI 425 let Titleist make a face that was thinner, stronger, and more flexible, creating measurable gains in speed while maintaining durability. The result of this work was the TSI series, with a consistent 2 to 3 mile an hour ball speed gain over the 917 and a new reputation for Titleist: fast as well as precise. With that, free agents even started putting it in the bag purely based on merit. Then came the TSR, the aerodynamic evolution of that speed DNA. In 2022, Cameron Smith and Cameron Young finished first and second in the Open Championship, both using a TSR. It was the perfect validation. The product was doing the talking. As one engineer summed up, we've gone from DIY aerodynamics to leading aerodynamics. Titleist had retooled its entire driver program, from face metallurgy to airflow science, proving that speed and precision could coexist. By the time TSR hit its stride, Titleist had done more than just catch up. They had redefined what a Titleist driver meant. No longer just about precision and feel, their drivers were genuinely fast, validated by back-to-back tour wins, player adoption, and overwhelming trust by fitters. But inside R&D, the message was clear. The project wasn't over. The speed project had become a mindset. Every generation had to be faster, more stable, and more efficient than the last. In 2024, that philosophy culminated in the GT series, the GT2, GT3, and GT4, each building on the aerodynamic and material foundations laid by the TSR. The biggest engineering leap came from a brand new thermoformed PMP polymer crown, an ultra-thin precision molded shell that marked Titleist's first move away from an all-titanium body since the 907 series back in 2007. Those early 907 drivers had experimented with carbon composite crowns, but this time the technology had evolved dramatically. The new polymer crown was lighter, stiffer, and more consistent, allowing engineers to lower the center of gravity and reposition that mass exactly where they wanted to, while maintaining the structural integrity of the head under impact. That weight saving unlocked Titleist's new split mass construction, allowing them to place discrete weights in the heel and toe to boost MOI and maintain more speed on those off-center hits. In their testing, the GT series showed higher launch, better dispersion, and better ball speed retention on missed hits across the face. But even with all that new tech, preserving the classic Titleist integrity was non-negotiable. Every GT crown is engineered and finished by hand to ensure that perfectly seamless top line, maintaining the clean, traditional look that players expect when they put a Titleist driver down behind the ball. And despite moving away from titanium, engineers spent months fine-tuning the acoustics of the new PMP crown.
Titanium product. I just want you guys to go ahead and drop it on the countertop.
It's more metallic than I would have expected.
As Stephanie Luttrell put it, every gram we save in the crown, we can reinvest into the performance, but it still has to look, sound, and feel like a Titleist. Building on Steve Ogg's aerodynamic groundwork, the GT line refined the crown and the trailing edge geometry even further. Flow visualization tests showed a smoother airflow over the top line and a more stable wake behind the head. Small aerodynamic gains that add up over a 300-yard drive. Now, before the official launch, prototypes of the GT did quietly make their way onto the PGA Tour. And within weeks, adoption was widespread. Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, Cameron Young, Ludwig Olberg, and Tom Kim were all seen testing and gaming GT models. And wins followed quickly. Further proof that Titleist's pursuit of speed hadn't come at the expense of precision and control. As one fitter put it during early testing, TSR was fast, GT feels like it's fast everywhere. From the 975D to the GT, the evolution of Titleist drivers tells a story of a brand that learned to balance science and tradition, constantly refining without ever losing its identity. And as engineers often said inside Titleist R&D, the speed project isn't finished. It's just in a new chapter. Now that we've covered nearly 3 decades of innovation, from the 975D's precision roots to the GT3's cutting edge speed, it's time to see what that evolution really looks like in terms of numbers. As you know, I've got all three drivers here today, the 975D, the 917D3, and the brand new GT3, and it's time to put them head to head on GC Quad, taking you guys through all of the performance numbers, the ball speed, launch, spin, distance, dispersion, everything to find out just how far has Titleist's technology really come. Let's hit some shots. Starting off in the 975D, a tiny compact head, and I must say it was actually really good fun to hit. Like, I really enjoyed the experience of hitting it. That all titanium head, very compact, just felt very solid when coming out the middle. Wasn't giving the overall most optimal ball flight numbers for a driver. It's coming out a little bit on the low launch side, little bit high spin, which we'd expect from a head design, size, shape such as this, but just overall really good fun to hit, and was actually getting some decent numbers out of it as well in terms of just distance, maybe a little bit more than I was expecting. Specs wise, we had the 9.5 degree head, and it came with an old school stock Titleist ultralight 50 stiff shaft, which actually felt quite nice to hit. And the swing weight was D4, so playing around 45 inches D4, so it felt pretty good to swing in terms of the length and swing weight as well. So yeah, overall, just a really cool experience. Really consistent around that 280 carry on a good one, like 164 ball speed, 10 launch, 2600 to 2800 backspin. It's really consistent in that region. I mean, that's a very good delivery, very good strike, very good result. Into the 917D3, really interested to see how this performs. We're actually getting some not bad numbers at all from the 975D. So is this as short and spinny as they say it is? Let's find out. I mean, that was a bit high in the face. That would be interesting. Maybe a little bit further. That was pretty solid. Probably the best strike so far, I'd say. I mean, it's pretty solid. 13 launch, 2.6 backspin, sort of almost 168 ball speed. I mean, it's not bad. One thing I will say, it sounds pretty horrible. Again, that was pretty effing good. I mean, when you get it, it does get out there, and be so interested to see how the GT3, yeah, again, like that's literally right out the middle, 2.5 spin, 292 carry. We'll just bring in that little dispersion map there so you can see it's definitely longer, and how much longer we'll find out in the end. Right, GT3, I'm going with the 10 degree head. Obviously the 975D and the 917D3 were 9.5. Now they don't do the 0.5s, they either have 9 or 10. So might be a slight disadvantage to the GT3, but we're going 10 degree. We're going A1, exactly the same as we had the 917, same shaft as the 917 plugged straight in. Let's see what we get. First hit straight out of the gate, felt pretty good. Felt a little bit better. Yeah, I mean, definitely longest carry so far of the day. Yeah, decent strike, good spin, good launch, decent efficiency, ball speed good. 306 carry, so definitely one of the bigger carries of the day. It felt like a really good strike. Yeah, definitely getting more over 300 carries, but weirdly, this seems more like it wants to turn over more, if I'm honest. Could well be me, but strike's pretty good. Spin's definitely a bit lower. And yeah, carries certainly up. That's a funky swing. Actually, weirdly felt like one of the best shots of the day. In terms of strike, yeah, that was middled. Yeah, 3 mil heel. First one into the 170 ball speed I've seen all day. And carrying, I mean, it's definitely getting, I'm seeing much more in and around that 300 carry really consistently with the GT3, even with strikes living slightly high, slightly heel like I have with the others. Ball speed's consistently a little bit higher, the spin's consistently a little bit lower, and definitely that carry's getting out there a little bit more. And in fairness, with the others towards the end, I did try and give a couple a little bit more just to see what I could get out of it. So let's do the same with the GT. That was pretty good, that. Yeah. I mean, those are pretty solid numbers for me, in all honesty. Like 174.5 ball speed, 121 club speed, 310 carry. Like it's pretty good. I will delete those ones from the average data set just to make it fair, but just for a bit of fun, I'm going to pop the 917 D3 back on and just try and make a very similar swing. See if I can get up to that sort of 120, 121 club speed and see what ball speed and what carry we can get out of the 917. Okay, 120. Tell you what, it's not far away, is it? It's not a million miles away. 171 ball speed from a really good strike. I mean, it's still, I get 174.5, still a few mile an hour down, but I mean, it's not a million miles away, but these are the sort of levels that they've had to put in millions of dollars in research and development just to get those few extra miles an hour ball speed out of the TSIs, TSRs, GTs over this 917. Like, that was considered slow. If I hit that 171 ball speed compared to 174 ball speed, you know, I'm personally not going to be absolutely miffed. I still think that's a great shot, good speed. But, you know, if you're on tour and you're looking to eke out those 2, 3, 4 extra mile an hour ball speed, which can equate to, you know, 10, 15, 20 extra yards, that's what they've been working so hard to achieve. Now we've got to do the same thing with the 975D, right? Let's see if we can get this to 120 club speed, and can it get anywhere near 170 to 171 ball speed? Be impressed if it can. Hey, wow. That's quick. Still not as long, but we got to 170 ball speed. It's really impressive with this, in my opinion. Yeah, really, really good strike. That efficiency number just never really climbs above sort of 141, 142 with this, which means that obviously just the amount of ball speed we're getting out of the middle isn't as much as the 917 and the GT3, which obviously we'd expect, right? But still, 121 club, 170 ball speed, 294 carry. I mean, for a club this old, you got to say, that's still pretty impressive. Okay, so the important bit, the data. How did these clubs perform over that massive 20-25 year period? I hit a lot of shots with all of these drivers to really thoroughly test them, and this were my average data results from each. First of all, I want to point your attention to the club delivery page, because there's some really interesting data here that show year on year, kind of driver by driver, those incremental gains that Titleist would have been looking for. So first of all, the efficiency. Now, efficiency is just a ratio of how much ball speed we managed to get from our club head speed. So output for input. The more efficiency, the higher the ball speed, the more ball speed we were getting out of it. So the 975D at 1.41, the 917D3 a little jump to 1.42, and the GT3 another little jump to 1.43. So getting more efficient each time, which is great. Club speed, again, we can see the same thing, incremental gains, slightly quicker each time. The 975D, I averaged around 116 club speed. The 917D3, basically 117, and then the GT3, pretty much 118. So we're getting a little bit quicker each time. Again, refining the aerodynamic, refining the materials and technology in the head to get a little bit more efficiency and a little bit more swing speed combined makes a reasonable difference. I'll quickly point out the average strike. Pretty consistent, to be fair. I was striking them all in a very, very similar part of the head, and feel like it was a very, very fair test. Even the path there, face angle of attack, like, it was a pretty fair test, in all honesty. So there's incremental gains from the club delivery aspect, gained us this ball speed. So the 975D, we averaged 163.5. The 917D3, we jumped to 165.5, and then a nice little jump to the GT3 at 168.7. So actually the 975D and the 917D3 closer than the 917D3 and the GT3, which you wouldn't expect considering the vast differences and time period between the 975D and the 917D3, 20 years, only a 2 mile an hour difference, whereas actually, again, the GT3 now a 3 mile an hour difference in ball speed, which I know to some might not seem loads, but when the reality is you've already got a pretty decent design driver, max CC, titanium head, all of these different areas, it's a pretty good driver. So to get a 3 mile an hour jump in ball speed from 2018 to 2024, still pretty good, because you can see the gains there in 20 years. wasn't that much. So it really shows how much the speed project has helped to gain that little bit more ball speed and bring them back up to the top of a driver that performs really well overall. So 3 mile an hour more ball speed. Can't say that the 917D3 is short and spinny though. Like, I mean, I was probably hitting it fractionally higher in the head than the GT3, which would equate to slightly lower spin on average, but showing about 100 revs there on average, the difference, it's maybe 200-300 revs more max. So it's certainly, I don't think it's spinny, maybe a bit slow on the speed, ball speed, but certainly not spinny. And we can see there an average of 294 carry. It's not short either. Average carry with the GT3, 301. So I was thinking it's probably a 10-ish yard difference. It's probably what I was seeing when I was hitting them. The 975D, it's kind of 270 to 280, in and around that carry, 280 when I really kind of got a good one. The 917D3 was in and around the sort of 290. Again, maybe touching 300 with a really good one. As the GT3 was consistently, even if I didn't quite catch it, caught it a bit high on the face, it was 300, 300, 302, 304, 29. It's always around that 300. I think the longest with the GT3 was 314, something in and around that range. So probably 10-yard increments as well, which again might not sound loads with all the time, money and effort that they put into these drivers, but it is incremental gains because they're starting at a point where the materials are already good, the design was already pretty good. Like, that's a pretty decent jump in all honesty. So for me, that's exactly how these drivers stacked up. Love to hear what you think about those numbers in the comments. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this EP Golf production. If you did, please smash that like button. Please subscribe. Edging to 50,000 subscribers, and we need your help to get there. Please let me know what you thought of the test results down in the comments below. Were you expecting to see more difference, less difference? Is that exactly what you expected to see? I would love to hear your thoughts of the test results in the comments below and just generally about this video and what you thought. As always, thank you so much for watching and supporting the channel. Please stay tuned. Loads more to come. And I'll see you in the next one.